If you grill it, he will come.
Hey.
Hey.
Is this heaven?
Nope. It's Fareway.
You're an unsung hero, so I'll sing this song for you. Nobody's trying to understand it, make a noise and make it clear. We're not gonna stay in silence, we're not gonna live in fear.
Two guys, two Chris's, one network. Iowa everywhere. It's time for Two Guys with Chris Williams and Chris Hassel. Presented by Fareway Meat and Grocery from the Channel Seed Studios. Where? Everywhere. Live and always on demand at Iowa Everywhere.
Welcome and good morning. It is Monday, the 23rd of September. Beautiful, crisp fall morning here in the state of Iowa. I'm Chris Williams, joined by Chris Hassel, who is just drowning in the gross humidity of Florida. We are in the Channel Seed Studio. Shout out to all of our great agriculture professionals in the state of Iowa who are out harvesting today. And we are presented, as always, by our friends at Fareway Meat and Grocery. A sulking Maddie Van Winkle is just here, just bothering all of us today. Just won't even, barely got up for the show.
Just leave me out of my misery, please.
Because his hapless San Francisco 49ers are 1-2, and Van Winkle's acting like Gary Anderson missed a kick for a 15-1 Minnesota Vikings team, maybe the best team in the history of the National Football League, and not going to a Super Bowl. I can't even hassle with a guy like Van Winkle, who's had everything handed to him sports-wise, growing up in San Francisco. You know, the Giants have won all these World Series for him.
Yeah.
I have no sympathy for a guy like him. Zero.
I've never seen anybody as upset as he was in our group chat yesterday. And
Yeah, then I got Don Hassel in my mention,
so he
just throwing shit.
Van Winkle tweets, "Nobody speak to me. I need a moment." And then, of course, here comes my dad. Purdy sucks balls. Hope that makes you feel better, my friend. And he got absolutely crushed in the comments.
Oh, no. Your dad did?
mean, oh, yeah. I'm telling you, this is why we can't do the two dads of Chris or whatever the hell people want to call it. Our two dads.
This is my favorite right here.
My dad's going to get me canceled. Matthew says, Don, it's time for your Metamucil and a nap. Hassel, come get your dad. He's saying dumb stuff again. This guy goes, whoa, I've heard a lot about his tweets on the podcast, but seeing one, yikes. Someone's got some issues. Steve says, Don is a douche times 1,000. Bill says, maybe time to go back to the nursing home. Here's the thing.
Oh, man. Getting ageist here.
The Cyclones have ruined my dad. They have killed him. They've crushed him. They've broken him. And he has a hard time dealing with it.
Well, he was all mocking Purdy in that group chat that I'm in with your dad. And Zavolinski was like, Purdy's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Those guys just can't fucking catch. And Don was like, he's a loser. They keep losing.
All that matters is you win or lose.
Yeah, you win or lose.
I'm sorry.
I think it's great. I actually respect the game. You know,
Yeah.
I respect it. I do.
Wendy even said, Don is a high-level troll. I respect the game, even though I wanted to throw my phone through the TV yesterday.
How good was Brock, though?
He was awesome.
He threw 8 incompletions, and 6 of them were drops.
And this is what we wanted to see from him. We were talking about it. I did the HQ pregame show yesterday, and we had Darius Butler, longtime NFL vet, Colts, Patriots, Pete Prisco, and it was okay. Let's see. Now that he doesn't have any of his big weapons, you know.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's out. Kittle's out. Your top receiver is out, Debo. And he still puts up great numbers. It was not on him. It wasn't.
No.
I mean,
They still just make a kick.
The team's got some problems. I don't know what it is. I can't.
Well, it's
put my
on the
finger on
defensive
it.
side. It's defensively. They are terrible, and
They're no Minnesota Vikings, that's for sure. Sam
Well,
Darnold. They could use Sam Darnold.
How about that? Jesus.
Get into all that.
we'll get to.
Yeah, we are presented by Fareway. Thanks to them. Had a great. I made at my tailgate on Friday night little thin sirloin, or not sirloin, ribeye strips, steak sandwiches
Oh,
from Fareway. Delicious. Got a ton of compliments from that. There you go.
I smoked 2 racks of ribs this weekend from
Look at this
Fareway.
guy.
The pork ribs were on sale.
Boom.
damn. And I'm coming off a streak of some bad meat down here in Florida.
Wow. I mean, that's all you got down there. You don't got the Fairways.
It's fewer and farer between. I'll tell you that. I mean, you can get some good meat. It's just
I don't
it's
eat
not
beef
as
down
consistent.
there. I just get seafood when I'm in your area, when I'm in your parts.
Yeah, I mean, I had seafood on Friday night. I can't eat it every day. Like seafood, give me it once a week, once every couple weeks. But I'm a meat and potatoes guy. Give me that meat and potato. Problem is, I don't live in Iowa anymore. Give me another meat box, Fairway.
Y'all got a meat box late Saturday night.
What?
Was it the Hawkeye win? That's as good as a meat box.
That was a meat box?
I mean, I was impressed by it. That
Yeah,
second
look,
quarter,
listen.
I'm watching. I'm like, damn, like this is going south in a hurry.
That's 3 games now that's happened. Where
Yeah, I wonder
Iowa's
what
looked
it
like
is.
dog shit in the first half, and then all of a sudden, second half, they're a different team. And this was a really good win.
Great win.
There's some nitpicky things, and it's mostly Cade McNamara. But I can't get over how great Kaleb Johnson is. I wanted to hold off on the hyperbole as long as I could with this kid. I can't any longer. He's incredible. He's the best Iowa running back I've seen since the Sean Green 2008 year. And Johnson is off to a better start than Sean Green was in 2008. Like I might have to go back to the 90s with the Cedric Shaws and the Tavian Banks.
I read a stat in one of the Register pieces that it's Tavian Banks. It was 97 since any Iowa running back could put up these type with like consecutive 100-yard games is what it was,
And touchdowns
consecutive
through
games
4 games.
Yeah,
Yes.
consecutive games with multiple touchdowns, I think was one of the stats. But yeah, it all went back to 97.
And
So you're surpassing Freddie Russell, like some really good running backs in that. Sean Green.
some of the individual efforts, like that first big run he had, I mean, he was touched 2 yards deep in the backfield. Then there was another Minnesota defender at the line of scrimmage, made them both miss, got to the outside, and got all the way down to the 2-yard line. I'm so impressed by Johnson and this Iowa ground game. Like, how is this even possible? How can you have no passing attack and still be able to have an individual run for over 200 yards against what is not a bad defense? On paper, it was one of the best defenses in college football. Now, I don't know that Minnesota is because the schedule that they played going into this thing.
They did play Chuba Purdy in Nevada.
But I mean, they held North Carolina to 19 points. North Carolina just put up 50 on James Madison, lost by 20.
Did you see our mutual friend bet the live over on that game of 121?
No.
Yeah. It was in one of our chats. You
Oh
probably
no.
missed it.
And it went under by a point.
Yeah, it hit 120, and one of our buddies just housed the live over
Oh,
of 121.
Unbelievable.
Lost his ass.
Well, I'm glad to see Kaleb Johnson is finally on the Heisman board. I mean, way down. Way down. But you can bet him now at certain places, and I just looked it up this morning. He was, I believe, I found him at 1,000 to 1 yesterday at, I think it was FanDuel, DraftKings. Found him at 1,000 to 1 at DraftKings.
He's the same as Shadir Sanders?
Yes.
Wow.
And today he's 75 to 1 at FanDuel. So you might want to wait. Like, if you really want to take a flyer on him, you might want to wait because I bet those numbers will go down with the bye week.
Guys, he's not going to win the Heisman.
Well, no, but I'm just for the hell of it.
Yeah, just to
because if he goes, I'm telling you, if he goes out and runs for 150 yards against Ohio State and it's a tight game, he's going to skyrocket up that list.
Are you like you're just giving a hypothetical, right? Or do you think?
Yes, I'm giving a hypothetical.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's going to do that. I'm just saying if he does on a national stage against Ohio State,
he's incredible. Like you're right about putting the whole team on your back. He more has said so after the game. I loved his brutally honest quote with everybody. He, the one thing, and these Pro Football Focus ratings, like. You kind of take them with a grain of salt, but what I like to do, Chris, is I like to look at them before I go back and watch the game because I feel like it oftentimes gives me like, okay, really keep an eye on this player or whatever. And your offensive line graded out really, really highly on Saturday night. And I just wonder, as far as that passing game goes, though, like we talked last year, if you remember last year, we were like, we just want a little bit of competence, right? And while Cade McNamara is certainly not like a top-level quarterback, his arm clearly isn't very strong, but he is just good enough, and his decision-making is good enough to make you have to pay attention. Like, you can't just completely ignore that Iowa passing attack.
And if you notice,
I will say this, that 15 Vanderzee got a lot better. Really good insight from Todd Blackledge during that game where we nailed this after the Cyhawk game about how Iowa State and those seniors really roughed him up. They went at him hard. And I thought Blackledge makes a great point in the broadcast in the third quarter about he really used that to learn and to grow. And I guess if I'm an Iowa fan here, sitting here today, and you've had these struggles in the first three games, specifically in the first half, like we're talking about, that's where you're kind of at, because you do look at it, and it hasn't really changed. You're still going to be favored in most of these games the rest of the way.
Yeah, now they don't have a single ranked team on the schedule the rest of the way after Ohio State, right? Because Nebraska fell out of the rankings. Yep. It's kind of setting up the way we expected it to. I mean, nobody is going to pick Iowa to win this game against Ohio State. I want to just be decent, keep it close, and then you're going to have a chance to win every single game the rest of the way. Now, when I look at this team, I feel like there's a lot more variance to what they could do record-wise than teams of the last couple of years. The last couple of years, it just felt like it was going to be 9 or 10 wins. There's no way it could be more, and it's really hard to see it being less. With this team, I feel like there's more variance, but there's more opportunity for, I'll stop short of saying greatness, but really goodness, real goodness out there, and potentially being in the mix in the top 4, 5 in the Big Ten, and being in that playoff discussion at the end of the season. Because if they play Ohio State somewhat tough and they win the rest of the games, one, they're going to be potentially in the Big Ten championship game. And two, definitely in the mix for the college football playoff.
Interesting dichotomy here with the whole Cyhawk thing. I was thinking about this Saturday night. And because the whole, everybody's rooting against Iowa where I'm at. I'm in the literal RV village of Jack Trice Stadium, right? Nobody's rooting for. But there's this part of me where, it really doesn't do Iowa State any good for Iowa to go 6-6. And in the same way, if what you just laid out were
if you're an Iowa State fan, you should absolutely be rooting for Iowa. And
the same with Iowa right now. You really want, if if you're still in that mindset that you just described, an 11-1 Iowa State would go a long way for you if you do think you could potentially get an at-large bid at the end of the year. Iowa State flaming out isn't going to do anything for Iowa. And I was just thinking about that. It's like, because you just look around and you're like, it's not crazy what we're talking about here, especially on the Iowa State side where you're still undefeated, right? But Iowa's got that margin of error being in the Big Ten that Iowa State doesn't have in the Big 12. Like that, the teams more so than ever really are connected because of that playoff thing.
Adam says, I didn't root for Iowa. I just rooted for Minnesota to lose Saturday night.
That's fair.
I get the rivalry and the blood you bleed. It makes it tough. But it is better if both of these teams have good seasons. It's better for the other team. Now, I mentioned the variance. Like I feel like this Iowa team could potentially win 10 games in the regular season. Could be in the mix to go to the Big Ten championship game. If you only have one loss in conference, you might be in it. But I also feel like, with the issues that we've seen, the defense at times, even in the first half, showing the propensity to give up a big play, you're going to face teams a lot better than Minnesota after Ohio State. A lot better than Minnesota. Minnesota, I don't even think is a top 10 team in the conference. And can you continue to rely on Kaleb Johnson being what he's been against everybody? I mean, somebody is going to be able to stop that unless you can throw. That's what I don't understand how they did it against Minnesota. I don't if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm furious that we didn't just put 8-9 guys in the box every single play and make Cade McNamara throw the ball down the field. I don't care how good I don't care who you have at running back. If it's Barry Sanders, if you put 9 guys in the box, you're not going to be able to run it. But they didn't do that. And you noticed each time Iowa did crack a decent play in the passing game, and I can only think of 3. The first play from scrimmage of the first half, the first play from scrimmage of the second half, both those little boot, play action, toss to the tight end, and the back shoulder to Vanderzee. Every time after that, it opened up the run game. But those are few and far between. They're going to need more of that. They have to throw the ball downfield vertically more than they have been because you're not going to be playing Minnesota every week.
Thanks to our friends at Game Day Men's Health for sponsoring Two Guys with Chris and Chris. I go to Game Day Men's Health in Ankeny. They also have locations in West Des Moines and in North Liberty. Go in there and get your free consultation, and they'll check your testosterone levels and see where you're at. I was a little bit skeptical when I went in there, I guess. I didn't know what I was getting into, and they sold me right away. They do a great job. So I appreciate our friend Bill Morris and his entire team, Game Day Men's Health in Ankeny, West Des Moines, and North Liberty. Also, them Dadgum Kaburski brothers. Dadgum Kaburski! Great time of year to schedule your fall landscaping project. There's a picture of me if you're watching on the YouTube right there. That Dadgum Kaburskis did that in my backyard. Lovely, lovely job. They are a great locally owned company who we appreciate working with here. And I know a lot of you have reached out to them because they told me, so we really appreciate that. That's awesome. Special teams got better for Iowa. That was a big critique coming out of that Troy game.
Yeah.
Was the special teams.
Well, not necessarily the special teams, but the punt unit.
The punt game, especially when you're so used to elite level punt game.
Yes.
Your guy Dakin played real well on Saturday.
Dakin was raking. I mean, 50-yard punt after 50-yard punt, and most importantly, hang time, baby. Didn't give up a single return yard. Just floated that thing up there. Fair catch every time. Several inside the 20. And even a little acting job. A little flop. Understanding the game of American football. Getting Iowa a first down and then flexing on him.
You know, they just
I didn't know he had that in him.
He had never even had cable. They just shipped him in. He'd never even seen a football game. They're like, we're moving you to Iowa, like
Love
we did
it.
Torrey. That's
I
great.
love it. He's growing up before our eyes, the little freshman. The punt game is back, baby.
All it took was you getting in his ear, Hassel.
Yeah. I mean, it was bad. In fact, you know what? I haven't looked up the updated stats nationally on Reese. I should have done that before the show because, I posted that.
You're the only fan base
Oh, I love it.
in the history of the sport where you guys have the punt stats bookmarked on your browser. You're like, back in the top
It's
10,
like the
where we
Canadian
belong.
voiceover guy talking about Steeple Ridge.
Resteak.
Ridge. Okay, so last week, remember the numbers. Iowa in net punting was more than 100. Not even in the top 100 in college football. This week has vaulted Iowa way up in punt average. Now 43.6. They're 44th in the country in punt average. Okay? Oh. Steeple Ridge.
Restaking, not the only. Minnesota only had 66 yards in the second half, so the defense flexed on them too.
Yeah, I mean,
Good
going
win,
into
just
that-
good complimentary win for Iowa.
going into the final drive of that first half when Iowa basically just ran out the clock, but Kaleb Johnson ran for 45 yards. The number, it was like 222 to 80 going into that last drive. And then Minnesota just gets totally shut down in the second half. That's encouraging because I was a little bit worried about that defense when they were again giving up big plays in that first half and against a Minnesota.
Yeah,
That's
they're
what
not very
scared me
good
the most is
on
that it was
offense.
Minnesota that was doing that.
I actually
But
think Troy's
short-lived.
probably considerably more explosive on offense than Minnesota. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
You're not wrong at all.
Okay. Yeah. They have better athletes, that's for sure. The other note that I had in it, so I said on Thursday, I think it was Thursday or maybe it was last Monday, but I felt like this Iowa team, you got a new coordinator, you've lost Torrey Taylor, which I'm not making light of that. No Cooper DeJean. I thought that it was struggling to find an identity. Like, what are you good at? What do you hang your hat on at the end of the day? Could we have seen that with this Kaleb Johnson thing? I mean, when we look back at 2024 Iowa football, how confident are you that that's going to be it? Like, did they find it, I guess, on Saturday? Not that he's been great. He was leading the nation in rushing going into the season, but that performance put him on a different level in
It
my
did.
mind. Are we there with the identity thing yet, that you're back to this really powerful offensive line at Iowa and you can run the ball on anyone, I'll be damned?
Well, it certainly looks that way right now. And let's be honest, the last 2 years, they haven't had any identity on offense. The identity was
Deacon Hill and
we
sucking.
will punt it, pin you inside the 5, and our defense is going to get some points, and that's how we're going to beat you. This season, the offense can score. And even if they don't have to go downfield. So, yeah, I think it's really encouraging. But, again, I just don't know. I mean, you go up against a well-coached team with a good defense. I just don't know how you can be that one-dimensional.
Like Iowa State did to you.
Yeah, and even though Kaleb got his numbers for the game, it was all in the first 2.5 quarters of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then totally shut out the rest of the way because they made that adjustment. I know that other teams are going to be able to make that adjustment moving forward, and that's why you have to get McNamara in this pass game going vertically.
You sound cautiously optimistic here on the podcast, but in our notes you have why I am as excited about Iowa football as I have been since they rose to number 2 in the nation in 2021.
Because I haven't been very excited at all over the last couple of years. I am excited right now because I
fair.
mentioned that the variance. Like I can see the 10 wins in a potential Big Ten championship game. and being in the playoff race. I can also see the shit it down your leg 7-8 win team. But I feel like the potential is there. There's hope because the offense is so far ahead of where it was, because Kaleb Johnson is running all over everybody, because all they need to do is get a little bit more in the pass game, a little bit more, and put a full game together. That hasn't happened either. So there's things that they can do to improve that I feel are attainable. I'm not asking for Cade McNamara to throw a 50-yard bomb. I'm just go down the field a little bit. Let's see more of the back shoulder, toss it up to a wide receiver in a one-on-one coverage situation, and let him make a play like Vander Zee did in that game. Just see more of that. And I think this team does have potential. I knew that the Deacon Hills and the Spencer Petruses of the world could not beat a good team. Like, I'm talking good team, like a ranked team. I feel like this Iowa team, although I'm not going to pick them to beat Ohio State or anything. They're at a different level. But I feel like they would stand a chance against a USC, against a Michigan. I feel that this year. Like, they could, because they can actually score. Do you disagree?
No. I mean, I was actually thinking that we've already seen it. I mean, I don't know where Iowa State's at, but like as far as rankings and power ratings go, they're right there with Michigan in that conversation.
What's disappointing to me is that Iowa's not going to get that chance in the regular season. The only great team they play is Ohio State, and they're just too good, and it's on the road. I want to see them play a Michigan, a USC, even a Penn State.
The Michigan State game got tough. Did they end up winning? There was so much going on with the Colorado game.
I think Michigan State got beat at Boston College.
It was tied the last I saw. I didn't see if they ended up. I'm saying that game looks a little more difficult, but even if you would win it, you wouldn't get a lot of credit for it to make your point. Yeah, well, good win for Iowa. Certainly worthy of feeling good about your team going into the bye week, and
had to have it. Had to have it. And yes, Michigan State lost by 4 at Boston College.
Okay, that was a good game. I had that on. Just for a little bit. There was a lot going on. Real quick, to be on the Big Ten, I thought that, and then we'll move on to the Big 12 and Iowa State. I did have this down on my notes that couple of great games in the Big Ten this weekend. Nebraska, Illinois was so much fun to watch.
It was.
On Friday
and
night.
Nebraska just Nebraska'd. That was so typical Nebraska, even though I think Nebraska, you're right, can be really good.
Yeah.
Raiola is amazing. He's incredible. He's the best true freshman quarterback I've seen play in the Big Ten in forever. And I don't even know who that would be. But he's still a true freshman. And can you put that together for 4 quarters every week?
Yeah.
He couldn't do that against Illinois.
That was a bad loss for Nebraska, but really didn't change my opinion on them that I think they're on an upwards trajectory.
I agree. Yeah.
And Illinois' quarterback is really good too. That kid. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a really fun game.
It was.
It was. I think I made a joke to you. One of the most exciting Big Ten West games I can recall.
And I love that it was on a Friday.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of, like, if you're a high school football purist, you hate that. I want to spread it out more because I have a tough time following every single game on a Saturday.
Maybe when my kids are in high school, I'll feel differently. I do have a nephew that plays on Fridays now, but I'm totally fine with some of these Friday night games. That does not bother me at all.
You know what I don't like? I don't like it when my team plays on Saturday night. I am over Iowa playing at night. Night
just
games,
too many of them? Like what makes you say that?
1, there's too many. And 2, I'm like almost exhausted and drained from all the football I've consumed by the time that game even starts. Because I've watched the whole early window. I've watched the whole afternoon window. And my game hasn't even started yet. And the game, I'm on the East Coast. You subtract an hour from from your day.
How are you
on the
going to
East
do?
Coast.
How are you going to do that UCLA game? In
I don't know.
November, 8:00 kick Central, 9:00 for you, baby.
I don't know. It sucks.
Maybe I have to take a nap.
Be a late. That's going to be a late instant Iowa.
And I thought that this one was really late. I mean, we didn't get done until it was 11:30 Eastern time when we got done with Instant Iowa this week. That one's going to be in the AM. I don't know. Night games have lost their luster to me because there's just too many of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Back in the day, it felt special when you had a night game. Like it felt special to be under the lights, and it doesn't anymore. And we come at it from a different view. Like a lot of fans love it because they can tailgate all day and do all that. Like I hate it, but I'm coming completely selfishly from a mediast because I don't go to bed. If Iowa State plays at night, I'm not going to bed until 3 or 4 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't impact fans.
Yeah,
that UCLA game, the Rose Bowl, that sunset, baby, that sunset at the Rose Bowl.
Is that? Will we see the sunset, or is it too late?
No, it'll be 6:00 West Coast. Absolutely.
I'm trying to think.
Right at kickoff, you'll get that sunset.
Rose Bowl.
It depends. Is it before daylight saving or whatever the hell it is? The fall back? I don't know.
November 8th is that game.
Yeah, we already fall back by that point.
Okay.
Already did that. We always do that around
the Rose Bowl sunset.
Those old men and their blazers are just sitting there.
I think daylight
rubbing
savings
their
is
pants.
November 3rd. So yeah.
God. Yeah. We are getting a lot of it in the comments. Like fans like the night games. I despise them. But
it's just too much. Like if it's one a year, great.
And I get it.
It should
be
a big
TV.
game one time a year.
But it used to be not, like these games weren't on television, so it was like the special ones. Do you remember when Iowa played Miami in like the early 90s? It was like the #1 team in the country, and they came to Kinnick Stadium. Do you remember that game?
I'm sorry, say that again. Miami? Yeah, that was one of the first games I remember watching.
Yeah, I went to that game. And like it was such a big deal because Iowa had a night game. Like we were all like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's back when the stadiums didn't have lights on them. Like Musco had to bring in trucks that had lights on the truck, and the lights would then erect over the top of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look! It looks like there's some breaking news.
What's
Big
that?
12 news. CBS Sports and the Big 12 have agreed on a men's basketball partnership.
I just got my press release.
It's a CBS Sports Network agreement to televise 20 men's regular season basketball games per year. They're sub-licensing licensing it with ESPN.
Okay, that makes sense.
It runs through the 26-27 season. Let's see. As part of its extensive regular season schedule, CBS Sports already broadcasts a minimum of 6 Big 12 games. Because, you see Kansas on CBS. You had that Kansas-Iowa State game on CBS. This new agreement adds 20 games per year to air on CBS Sports Network. So CBS is going to have 26 Big 12 men's basketball games per year.
Hassel, let's go get you on the call of some of these.
That would be great. Sign me up, brother.
This all adds up. And by the way, this is happening a lot more. You're seeing like ACC games on the CW right now. So those games are actually owned by ESPN, sub-licensed to the CW. So ESPN is doing this a lot, and this all goes hand in hand with Brett Yormark's, although he hasn't really publicly said it too much. But the plan has always been to, in the next television contract, sell basketball separately of football. And this. So what this probably means is there's fewer of these games on ESPN Plus,
which I think it looks like, judging from the comments, Iowa State fans would be very happy with. CBS Sports Network does a great job with games. I mean, it's going to be a
better
high-level production, especially if you're comparing it to ESPN Plus.
Yeah,
because CBS has far fewer games, so they can really put their resources into the games they do have.
That game that Iowa State, I think it was Kansas at home last year on the big CBS, was the best broadcast.
Oh, it was great.
The basketball game that I've seen in years.
Cyhawk game this year, football, right? Like we haven't seen that.
Yeah, that was a tough one for Iowa State fans coming off the Cyhawk broadcast on CBS and then going ESPN Plus over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that's what that means just based on reading that press release is they're going to ship a lot of those ESPN Plus games to, and a good get for CBS Sports Network too.
I love it.
Yeah, you guys are used to having on that network. I mean, Mountain West, a lot of right? Like I'm trying to think of
Mountain West, Conference USA is those are the main two conferences that are on CBS Sports Network.
Getting juice with the best basketball conference in the country.
Huge. I hope there's more of it coming down the road.
Win-win for everybody. Let's get Hassel calling some of those Otzel ball games, baby. I'm putting it out there into the universe right now. I want to thank our friends at Freedom Tire.
Freedom
Tire.
Freedom Tire.
Not only tires there. You can, Maddie Van Winks, we got to take our trucks in for an oil change sometime together. We can just go and do the whole Freedom Tire oil change together.
You guys are going to get your trucks oil changed together? You're going to
lube it up, maybe.
Cross streams? You're going to cross oil streams together?
We got locations in Altoona, Ames, Des Moines, West Des Moines, on Hickman. They are locally owned, locally operated for almost 50 years. Love our friends at Freedom Tire. Appreciate them supporting us here on Two Guys with Chris and Chris. Also, our friends over at the Full Court Press family of restaurants. I am a Fong's pizza junkie, but that Iowa Tap Room down there in the East Village has turned into the go-to spot for the lunch meetings for me. If I got to meet somebody downtown Des Moines, I go to the Iowa Tap Room each and every time. It's a lovely, lovely establishment.
So when you go to the Iowa Tap Room, they've got 100 Iowa craft beers on tap. Are you the asshole that orders the can of Busch Light?
No, I don't do that there. Well, it depends.
Have you been to the tap room, Hassel?
No.
So their beer, all the taps are on like a grain bin. So it's like a circular grain bin and all the taps go around it. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, okay. I don't know that was there when I lived in
it wasn't
in Des Moines.
No, it wasn't. It's
Fong's and Hessenhaus were though.
Yeah, do you ever drink the boot? Did you ever do that?
Oh yeah, the Das Boot. Oh yeah, I got drenched by that boot once. Just drenched.
No,
it's disgusting though because you have to put like when I was there, they passed it around the table and everyone was drinking out of the same.
Oh my
boot.
God! Speaking of that,
do you have another AI piss video?
Oh, that's where I was going. You've pissed in my camper?
I've pissed in your camper. Yeah, last year when I was there for the Texas game.
I mean, camper toilets are not that deep.
No.
They're just not like the way that they're built. All I could think about all weekend when I was taking a piss is just like how much urine is just splashing.
Those urine crystals colliding with one another, breaking off into small shards and going into your toothbrush. You know what I like to do?
Just ruin me.
If I can, is I'll hold down the flush thing and open up the hole and piss right into the hole.
My wife
must
must be watching. She says lots of pee. I cleaned it up. It's just, but there's nothing you can do because I'm on the tee. I got a solid stream.
My wife will wake me up and she'll be like, "Well, you watch where you're peeing. There's pee all over the seat." It's like it's going in there, but it's the splashback.
She's requesting that I sit when I pee in the camper.
Peter says, "Isn't urine sterile and clean?"
Yeah, Bear Grylls, he used to drink his own piss when he was out in the wilderness without any food.
Didn't you hear Sipker's Scott School the other day?
What did he say on that one?
People used to use their urine as mouthwash.
Yeah, mouthwash.
Matt, see if you can find the Bear Grylls. There's this one episode. It's pretty famous.
We've shown this where he eats his shit.
No, he's got the elephant shit.
Yeah, you've shown that.
Squeezing the water out of it into his face.
Again. Bear Grylls, I used to watch Man vs. Wild 15
I love
years
that
ago.
show.
One time he was pretending to be stranded on the ocean, like on a raft, and he didn't have anything. Didn't have food, water, but he had it was like a little plastic hose with a funnel on it. I don't know how he got it, but he starts giving himself a saltwater enema. Just straight into his ass. Because he said, you can't drink salt water, but if you can find a way to get it into your ass, it will replenish you. And so he did. Will you stop playing that, Van Winks? I don't want to see him squeezing the elephant
shit.
God.
So if you insert the salt water into your anus, it hydrates you.
Yeah.
What about a 5-layer burrito? What would that do to you?
Well,
Did
we
you
do
hear
have
the
an
update?
update. Did you see the video the guy posted, the Kansas State fan who was going to shove the 5-layer burrito up his ass if they lost to BYU? They
got
lost.
killed.
Yeah, they got destroyed in that game. What a dumb. You're going west. You're only a 6-point favorite. Whoever this guy is went out and he did purchase a beefy 5-layer burrito and he put it into the freezer. And then I don't really understand this last night, this thing that he did.
What is going on here? He has a paper bag on his head?
Yeah, it's St. Bill Snyder. He went and bought a 5-layer burrito, and he says that something's going to happen on Saturday at 8:30. So stay tuned.
Saturday at 8:30. Wait,
Well,
what
he better
time
shove it up his ass because I only.
do they not? Do they have a bye week or something?
No, they play Oklahoma State this week.
Why is he waiting until Saturday?
I don't know.
to
He
do
needs
it?
to just shove the thing up his ass. Be a man of your word.
Saturday, he pays the bet at 9:30 p.m. What? I don't know. I'm tired of this story.
Yeah, I was all about this. The one he posted Saturday night was hilarious. It was this video where he pulls out the beefy 5-layer burrito and he put it in the freezer, and I was like, okay, this is funny. And then the one he put out last night, it's like, all right, you lost me.
Yeah, just do it already.
Yeah, just shove the burrito up your ass, dude. Get it.
One of these days, I don't think I've shared the story on the podcast. Maybe I have, but I got to tell the story about the friend of mine who put the light bulb in his ass. Have I told you about that?
Is that the same guy with the Oreos?
Different guy.
Oh, he shoved a light bulb in his ass?
Have I not told that story on this podcast before?
I don't think so.
All right. Well,
I feel like that's one I probably would have remembered.
We'll save it. We'll save it for another time because we're 43 minutes in. We've talked saltwater enemas and beefy burritos and everything Iowa, and we still haven't talked about.
Let's talk about it.
Iowa
talk about the
State's
two deeps.
Just absolute bone-crushing win against Arkansas State. This game was perfect for me because there were so many other games I wanted to watch that weren't that one that I got to just not watch the second half because it was 31-0 and because I knew that you would watch this thing like a hawk with your hand down your pants watching these second and third stringers. But could that not have gone any more perfectly for Iowa State? That's exactly how you draw a game like that up.
Yeah, no, it was very well done across the board, and they were just super aggressive from the beginning. I kind of thought they'd screw around at the end just to run the clock out, and they didn't. They let the backups come in, and they were calling real plays. They were trying to give those guys an opportunity to go out and show what they could do. This is such a macro view of it, though, Chris, but Iowa State, in the history of Iowa State football, you just don't get many days like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
You usually, they've underperformed against teams, but I just loved watching Iowa State just smother an opponent. That's what makes me really, really encouraged. And I do think Arkansas State will play in a bowl game. I don't think they're terrible. That I could see them winning 3-4 games in the Sun Belt and getting to 6-6 or whatever. But when you're really good, and I think this Iowa State team is really good, you establish dominance and you don't let your foot off the gas. And
you're
and
an
that was
alpha
the
dog.
case. Yeah. They went for it on 4th down on the first possession of the game.
I love that.
4th and 1, we know we can get a freaking yard.
This is what I wanted to see out of Iowa in the games where they played shitty opponents. I wanted to see something like this where we could see Sullivan for a full half, where you really you tried some things. You didn't just dominate on the ground knowing that you just were stronger than the other team and just get in and out with a win. No. I mean, they were really trying to set themselves up for success later on in the season.
And we both said on Thursday that what we wanted to see was the offense get into a rhythm, right? Where it just, because the offense had been good going into this game, but there was no rhythm in the North Dakota game, and it's a weird deal playing Iowa. Like, Iowa's just so unlike every other team Iowa State usually plays that you can never have a great read on anything from that game, no matter how it goes. But, to go out there and score at will, to be able to run the ball at will, to be able to pass the ball at will, you clearly had the best players on the field, and they showed it. And, and defensively, I don't really know what to take from it, but I do think that Arkansas State team will play more like a Big 12 team than like what Iowa will do as far as schematically goes. And I thought those linebackers got a really good test. There's good athletes on that Arkansas State team. Really, really happy. I mean, the secondary dominated. The D-line was really good. More importantly, I'm looking forward to, how does this set you up into the rest of the year? They got a couple of offensive linemen back from injury. They each got more than 20 snaps. You work those guys in. That, to me, was the biggest, oh, man, that fires me up type thing because there will be injuries. This is college football. You're not going to go through the season without them, and they're building some depth. And I'm not all in on the linebackers, but I'm pretty damn high on Ebel and Brazina, the two freshmen that are out there. They're going to take some licks at some point. Iowa didn't test them that much in the second half. We didn't know anything against North Dakota, and this game wasn't a test. At some point, there's a good coordinator. Baylor's probably going to be able to do it in a couple weeks where they're going to put them in bad spots, and we'll see how they react. But they've gotten an A in their first 2 games without Kaleb Bacon. They've been just fantastic. So I love games like this too. And I'm a total geek. I'm a complete sicko, but I love watching the backups, and I love. Okay, that's what Campbell's thinking as far as his defensive line rotation goes, and we saw Connor Moberly come in, the true freshman out of Southeast Polk, over J.J. Cole, which it didn't surprise me. I thought this was the way that they would lean. But if you tell us a year ago that that's the case, we would have been really surprised by it. And I thought from what we saw out of Connor Moberly, man, he was really impressive. I thought the true freshman looked really good out there.
My takeaway is more bigger picture when looking at the entire Big 12 this past weekend and what everybody has done to date. I find it hard to not put Iowa State in the top 2 in this conference right now. And when you look at the rankings, they're the second highest ranked Big 12 team. I feel like even though they haven't jumped into conference play yet, we've seen a lot of flaws from these other teams. I mean, I'm out on Oklahoma State.
That was a bad loss for them.
Oh.
With no Cam Rising, that was a bad loss for Oklahoma
and look,
State.
they should have lost to Arkansas too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Kansas State. You just got pimp slapped by BYU. You probably should have lost at Tulane. And so who is it now? It's Utah. I feel like they could be, maybe, in a class of their own. And then after that, you've got Iowa State, UCF, BYU, maybe. I mean, they've certainly proven it so far.
That was a good win for them.
Yeah, they beat Kansas State and an SMU team that, did they not blow out
Just
TCU this
destroyed
past week?
TCU.
I think you got to start believing in BYU as well. And I think Iowa State's right there. When you look at the odds to win the Big 12, it's Utah, then it's UCF, then it's Iowa State.
I think UCF's too. Bloom and I did this last night on Cyclone Fanatic. We went through their schedule. I think theirs is a lot of schedule project. They have an easy schedule.
You know what else it is? It's because they've already played a Big 12 game. They're 1-0 in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Iowa State is not.
Yeah, look at this shitty graphic ESPN put up during the game.
Yeah, well, I
What
saw
the hell
you
is
post
this?
that, Van Winks. What best chance to win the Big 12 ESPN analytics, and Iowa State isn't even listed on here?
I feel like this has to be an outdated graphic that they put up.
UCF 31%, Kansas State 25, Oklahoma State 14, Utah 11, Kansas 4, and then nobody else. What? You can't even you can't put any stock into that.
No.
That's just
Well,
insane.
So UCF does come to Ames.
Mm-hmm.
The other scheduled thing to watch is that Iowa State has to go to Utah, where Utah goes to UCF. I want to say that's on Black Friday, like a night game on ESPN. So that'll be a big one as well. Yeah, I'm right with you. I mean, I think if you're just power rating the teams, you're not necessarily looking at schedule projections with all these uneven schedules. I think you go Utah 1, Iowa State 2.
Yeah. That's where I'd put it right now. Iowa State, to me, looks like the second best team in this conference. Like, UCF has potential, but Iowa State is more well-rounded, I think.
I mean, UCF almost
UCF
lost to TCU a week
they,
ago.
Yeah, they needed a huge comeback. Now, they've got some real good players, but I think Iowa State has a better defense, and Iowa State has a more well-rounded offense than UCF. And we'll see if, Gundy and Kansas State make some adjustments, but so far, neither one of those teams has been impressive at all in the first month of the season.
Elsewhere in the Big 12, God, the Fox broadcast setting up for the Shadir Sanders Hail Mary, and they're playing Cordell Stewart to Michael Westbrook. They play it like 6 times coming out of that commercial break, and I'll be damned. He hit it, and I know that's where Van Winkle wants to go here. Let's do our bigger, better, bolder.
Bigger, better, bolder. Built by Kelderman Manufacturing.
Go ahead, Matty. You start us, buddy.
I mean, Baylor just pissed that game down their leg.
Fireable.
Does Dave Aranda make it through the season, Williams?
My projection is that so they play next week in a game they should win. But if they don't,
you think they play BYU, right?
Yeah, I mean, I bet they're still favored.
BYU's ranked now.
If they would lose that and then lose in Ames the next week, I bet he could get fired after that Iowa State game. Because that's what these schools are doing now. They want to be the first to be on the market to hire a new head coach because of the transfer portal being in early December. But that a completely inexcusable defensive series there at the end for Baylor. I have no idea what they were doing.
I mean, it's pouring
especially
down
for
rain.
a defensive coach like Dave Aranda, and absolutely
I've never
fireable.
seen that happen where on back-to-back plays you have a guy that's basically in one-on-one coverage. Like,
unreal.
Usually there's 5-6 guys around the ball.
To his credit, Shadir Sanders is one of like 3 quarterbacks in the country who can make that escape and throw. He was unbelievable in that.
And then how about the play from Travis Hunter in overtime at the goal line to force the fumble through the end zone to end the game? Just an incredible finish. Fun game to watch too.
Great game. We had some good ones.
Big 12 theater, man, is off the charts this year.
It really is. Like, you can bitch about there not being great teams at the top, but it's living up to what we thought it was going to be going in. These conference games, and even when they go out of conference, they're just great.
Yeah, good stuff. And man, I think Dave Aranda might be the first coach in the country to get fired this year, but we'll see. Nobody's telling me that. It just Baylor really cares. Like, they have a really engaged booster base down there. They have more money than they know what to do with all those, oil guys, and they are absolutely loaded and ready to fire him.
I think I'm looking at their schedule. I think they could potentially still get to a bowl game, though. I see 6 wins on that schedule. Enough? They could beat Tech. They could beat TCU.
I mean,
they could beat Houston.
Could.
Yeah.
But my question would be, is getting to 6-6 good enough for Aranda right now?
No.
Because this goes back to, and everybody, I got killed. Baylor fans tossed it around, and said I was just making shit up, but when they put those "we pay player" things on shirts, like it reeks of desperation. They've fired every coordinator. They've done everything. They're printing those shirts. I think he's gone. Who do you got, Hassel?
Look, this is pretty easy. This is Kaleb Johnson. I mean, can you go with anybody else? As a Hawkeye fan, this guy has been an absolute revelation. Not only is he putting up these numbers, he's just so fun to watch. The way he moves, the way he makes people miss, it's just effortless. You can't not love to watch him play. And God, it was really scary at the end of that game, his last run. He kind of pulled up a little bit lame. He was wincing, grabbing at his hamstring. Thank God the reporting out there from Chad Leistico and others is that it was just cramping. He's not concerned. The team isn't concerned. Get into this bye week, get him healthy, and try to turn him loose against Ohio State.
Good time to have a bye. Yeah, if he's just a little bit dinged up, no doubt. Sam Darnold for me, and a little bit of a trend here of these, as you called them, retread quarterbacks that are having a lot of success in the NFL. But
yeah, how about that?
But
all these retreads out here, and you got these rookie quarterbacks who just suck. Like Caleb Williams has been just god awful. And
Bryce
you've
Young got benched.
Yeah. Andy Dalton's coming out, slinging it around. Justin Fields is 3-0. Geno Smith keeps doing his thing in Seattle. It's like, at what point are these teams going to realize, man, maybe it's not worth it to trade everything to move up and draft a quarterback just to save some money against the cap? And teams are moving on from these quarterbacks faster than ever, too. How about Malik Willis? He's 2-0 as the Packers starting quarterback. The Titans drafted him 2 years ago, and he just went into Tennessee and beat the Titans. And Will Levis, who looks horrible.
Had some really interesting quotes this week about how he learned from Brock Purdy last year about how to prepare for a game and how to study film, and I thought that was really profound. And he was a guy who always had the physical tools. He was always in these awful situations.
Yeah.
And now you have a really brilliant offensive coach, and you're throwing to Justin Jefferson, and he was a punchline all offseason. It's like, oh, they got Sam Darnold. They can't. And now look at him. I mean, he's playing like he might be the best quarterback in the league in the first 3 weeks, just statistically. Really, really shocked. I mean, I made a huge bet on the Vikings in the under win total this year. And
what was it again? 6.5, 7.5?
7.5 is what I played it at.
Oh, yeah,
and then it
screwed.
went down because everybody was betting it. But I'm gonna. Well, we thought that the North was gonna be this juggernaut, right? I thought the Bears were gonna be a lot better. Jordan Love goes down. The Lions have, they're 2-1, but they've struggled. They haven't looked like a well-oiled machine by any means.
Got a big game coming up next week at the Packers. Vikings at Packers.
Oof, that'll be fun.
And Jordan Love might be back for that one.
I hope he is. Bring it on. Let's go. Just a fun weekend overall. Real quick, we both wanted to hit on this for two different reasons. You wanted to talk about the WNBA going head-to-head with the NFL playoffs, or their playoffs going head-to-head with the NFL. And I feel the same way about my sport, NASCAR, Chris. It's just like, it drives me nuts because NASCAR's going through and they went up against freaking college football Saturday night, which is probably a better decision than a Sunday afternoon with the NFL. But it's just like, God, I want to watch the race so bad, but
yeah,
I'm not turning off Iowa, Minnesota, or Baylor, Colorado for it. You need to have a little bit of awareness as to who you are on the calendar. And I don't know as much about the WNBA situation, but with my sport, NASCAR needs to have 5 or 6 midweek races that work. They'll get better television ratings, I promise. And get the hell out of there before the NFL starts. Just get your season over with.
I don't
feel
get
like
this.
The WNBA's got to do that too.
WNBA starts its playoffs with the Caitlin Clark's first playoff game at like 3:00 on a Sunday. They announce the MVP and Caitlin Clark winning Rookie of the Year I swear to God, it was like 7:30 in the morning they announced this yesterday, leading into all the NFL. I understand that you want to have these games on a weekend, but at some point you've got to stop doing a disservice to the league. Get out of the way. You can spread these games out. Play even if it's Sunday night. There's only one game going on a Sunday night. You don't put that game when 5 to 10 NFL games are going on at that time. And look, the Fever were terrible. They got blown out. Caitlin Clark wasn't good. And now they're one game away from being done. They play on Wednesday. And if they don't win that game, it's over because it's only a best of 3. But, I mean, it's good that it's on a Wednesday. You're actually going to be able to watch it with nothing else going on. But I feel like these leagues just need to be smarter about that. Like, stop thinking that fans should plan around you. That's not how it works. Football is king.
You will lose.
Yeah. And you have a big opportunity. Like, you could have really ramped up to that. Caitlin Clark's first playoff game after the most successful year in WNBA history. And one of the reasons it was so successful is that much of the season took place in the summer when there was nothing else going on. Everything ended except for the WNBA.
Couldn't agree more. Before we go, can you tell the story about the guy shoving the light bulb up his rear?
Have I really not told that story here before?
Matt, we would have remembered that, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I don't know if I've heard this one.
I just want to know why he
refresh
would
us.
do it. You know,
This is an old
and what
school
size of light bulb and like what the
a regular
wattage
size
was.
light bulb. Just picture a regular light bulb.
Like going in a lamp.
Yeah. So
That's delicate. I mean, that could. How did it not?
well, the guy
Shatter.
he was really drunk, and he was really horned up, and he was trying to masturbate, and he couldn't get
Earmuffs.
he couldn't get to climax. He couldn't do
Wait,
it. He was so
so
drunk. He was so drunk. He couldn't
Did
do
other
it.
people witness this, or like
He
did
told
he tell
us
you
about
about it after the fact?
Well, he had to tell us about it because of what happened. So he grabs a light bulb and screws it into his ass.
oh, so it was the screw side first,
Yes.
because I was envisioning the glass, and that's where I'm like, I don't even know how that
No.
worked.
You thought he was putting the glass part in first?
Yeah, there's just got to be shards of glass stuck in his rectum.
Well, here's what happened. He gets it working. Everything's going according to plan.
So the light's on.
But he has such a... Did you just burp?
No, it was involuntary. But
He has such an orgasmic climax that he falls over in his drunken stupor and the light bulb shatters inside of his ass. He has to go to the emergency room to get the shards of glass taken out of him.
It was that good.
Yeah. It worked until it didn't.
Well, good for him, I guess.
So I haven't told that story on
But
here
like,
before?
I mean, how many particles? Is this like when you take a pee and it splatters into thousands of...
I think it was like 3 or 4 big pieces of bulb.
That's better.
But they were in there. I mean, like he fell over and it went in there. And so he needed help going to the emergency room. And
So you had to take him to the ER?
I wasn't the one that took him.
Oh, my God, that would be great. to be able to just have that story the rest. Yeah, I had to drive you to the ER when you shoved a light bulb up your ass.
I have some bad ER stories. I think I told the story before about when I smoked too much pot when I was a sophomore in high school, and the guy who procured the pot after we smoked it all started talking about how it was laced, and that the week prior, one of his friends actually died from smoking this strain.
Oh, so you're just anxiety.
And so I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out, and I forced them to take me to the emergency room. And they dropped me, like they didn't want to do it. They kicked me out of the car, and I was so out of it that I had to there was a wheelchair sitting outside the emergency room. I got in the wheelchair and wheeled myself in up to the front desk, and I said, I need in. I'm dying. And so that, of course, I mean, I'm a minor. They had to call my parents.
Oh. Did your parents know you were on the Chiba?
Not at first. But then, they first thing they do is they take a piss sample, and the doctor came in without my parents in the room, and he said, "Are you going to tell him, or do you want me to?" And I said, I'll tell him. So I had to tell him. And by that time, I had passed the paranoid stage, and I had moved into just giggles. And so I was feeling great, except for the fact that I was in the emergency room, and I had to tell my parents that I smoked pot.
And were you just laughing about it?
For the most part, yeah. And they were just relieved.
What did Don say?
They were more relieved than anything. They thought like something was seriously wrong with me. And yes, that, as fake Bob Vanderplot says in the comments, this is why Don is the way he is.
My favorite part of doing this show live is when people are watching and they're behind. Mm-hmm. See, right when you were talking about the glass shattering in this man's rectum, Justin Brody is watching on Facebook and says, "Yeah, it was great to see the 2s and 3s playing."
That's what I love about these shows too, because with Murph and Andy, when they were on the radio, if I wasn't able to tune in right away, I would let it be and wait for the podcast to come out. But if I come in 30 minutes after the show starts, and you can do the same thing with Two Guys and other live shows, you can just scroll the wheel back to the start of the show and boom, watch it from there. You can pause anytime you want. That's what's so great about this. And you get stories about light bulbs.
Yeah, we can talk about
shattering inside anal cavities.
Yeah. Or sticking burritos right up there. On a serious note, great event yesterday in Des Moines at Wells Fargo Arena. Our guy Andrew Downs was I don't know if you call him the MC or the host of the NHL preseason game.
Yeah, check this out. This is the guy that won the tickets from our show, Andrew.
Awesome.
So AD got to meet up with him, and
that's the greatest
awesome event.
Maybe the greatest jersey in sports is the Blackhawks sweater.
And by the way, watch this. Utah Hockey Club's first goal. Check out.
Oh,
wait, did you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Right on the Iowa Everywhere logo.
Woo! All right.
We need to. We're just a Utah fans here now, right?
I'm all in.
We're just gonna adopt them. I actually do like the Minnesota Wild. That would be my hockey team if I had to pick one. But
let's wait till they have a team name.
Are they going to pick one? Because I thought it would be kind of cool if they just kept it the Utah.
No, I think they're just going to go 1 year as this, and then.
Yeah, we talked to Bill Armstrong, the GM from the Utah Hockey Club, a couple weeks ago on All Access, and he said, "Yeah, we'll have a team name picked out, but they're not going to announce it for a little bit."
But they thought about doing that for a while, right? With the Washington Commanders,
they should have. Like Washington should have kept their old jerseys, just put the what was it, the script W that they used to have, and not move to Commanders. Commanders is terrible. Now you got all these people that are wanting to go back to what it was before. But that's great. Great to see a big crowd for that. And AD on the microphone.
Yeah. No, Too bad, too, that Andy Fales is on vacation because he's a huge Blues fan. That timed out kind of crappy for him.
Is he back? Is he going to be back for Murph and Andy today? Or
I'm assuming he's still in Mexico.
That's a
I don't
quick
know why
Mexico
you go to Mexico
trip if he's already back. So
I don't know why
means
you would go for 3 days and come back.
He's going to join from Mexico again, you think? Because he did on Friday.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. That'll be today live at 1 o'clock all across the Iowa Everywhere platform. He is Chris Hassel. My name is Chris Williams. Maddie Van Winkle does all the great production for us here on Two Guys with Chris and Chris. We want to encourage everyone to follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, specifically on YouTube. If you're one of the people who watch on YouTube all the time, and there are thousands of you, we would like you to subscribe to the channel and not just linger. That would be great. Have an awesome rest of your Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Two Guys.